All right, we're rolling. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, at the Cause for Freedom, where we will be sharing our perspective on why and how we became digital nomads. Today, I have a very special friend. I would love to introduce him, but I think it's best if I let him introduce himself so he can tell you his name, where he's from, what he does, and what he does for as a digital nomad.
Yeah, my name is Alex Shropshire. I am from Los Angeles, California. I have spent the last 10 years in New York, though, so consider myself a New Yorker.
Okay.
And I am a data scientist for a financial tech company based in San Francisco called Brex.
Wow, interesting, interesting. That sounds like a very far, a very difficult domain to get in. So let's discuss how you got there. Um, Coming up in Los Angeles, California, what was your childhood like? What did you dream of becoming?
Yeah, I was born in Los Angeles to two English immigrants who moved to LA for a temporary project back in 1989, and they decided to stay after a couple years and get married and have a family. So I have an older sister and eventually a younger sister, and growing up in Los Angeles, it was in a nice suburb of Los Angeles, a very, I guess, homogenous place in the immediate vicinity, but a very diverse place in the greater vicinity. And I grew up going to school with lots of different types of people, all races, creeds, backgrounds, and yeah, spent most of my days playing soccer. And if you asked me when I was 8 years old, I would have told you that I wanted to become a professional soccer player. And I think, it's not too late. But yeah, soccer was kind of everything. Obviously, the son of English folks, soccer kind of just runs in the blood. So that was everything. Kept me fit, taught me how to work in a team, and I still kind of see everything in life that's kind of performance related. I can kind of see through the lens of soccer, and so taught me a lot of great lessons as a child. Yeah, and then I guess something else that I got into during high school was community service. I felt kind of a strong need from an early age, or a strong draw to help others. In Los Angeles, it's very easy to see others who are kind of who have less than you, and so I always felt compelled to kind of right that ship in whatever way I could. And yeah, that's kind of what brought me, that experience in high school brought me to start a few clubs with my friends where we focused on cleaning up beaches, cleaning up mountain roads, delivering lunches to homeless people in the nearby area, and writing about that in my college essay essentially got me to college.
Oh, interesting. So you seem like you grew up you grew up pretty much as a child. Like you aspired to play for the rest of your life pretty much, and it shows that you have the heart of a child, because I think only people that keep their childhood stuff can feel for others that are in pain. So I think that's what drew you to write that essay. Um, so did your parents influence? I guess your parents influenced you to get into soccer in a way. Did they influence you to travel? When did this desire to travel? When did this come in your life?
Yeah, so every other summer we would go back to England to visit my grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins. Everyone else was back there, except my immediate family. And on those trips, I would interact with local kids, hear different accents. They'd, hear my accent, and just being in a place that was in a way home, but also very different than, my usual surroundings. That was kind of the first taste of it. And then when I was in 7th grade, I actually, with soccer, was basically on a team that was kind of like a preface to Junior Olympics, and me and a few random people who I'd never met before were all put on a team and went to, flew into Amsterdam and played a tournament in rural Holland against Dutch teams, German teams, Swedish teams, all sorts of different like European clubs our age. So I was in a brand new country with a new language for the first time. And then high school, there was an experience where we went and built houses down in Tijuana, Mexico, and just seeing like, only 2 hours away from Los Angeles, just seeing how different it was across the border, was kind of a shocking experience. And then really like, those were really my main early travel experiences. When I got to college, with the resources of NYU, the travel kind of compounded from there.
Interesting. I can see. So in high school, you did, because you were so involved in soccer as a discipline, and that's something that you enjoy doing, that brought you to travel in Europe and compete and also get a different perspective. I think that kind of enhances your reward for what can possibly be if you're part of a team and you work hard. And then I guess when you came back and you went to Tijuana, that also gave you a different perspective that, people have it bad in LA, but they can have it a lot worse. Just not, like the world is pretty big, but like just next door is pretty bad,
Yeah, and that was at a time where Tijuana is still violent today, but Tijuana was going through in a really bad way at that time, and those trips are always on the brink of being canceled. Take a bus full of kids down to build houses in Tijuana.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to get
that.
across and get through it.
So, going into college, you said you, with the reasons of NYU, that propelled your ambitions to travel and see the world for even more, right?
Yeah.
So, what did you go into college studying, and how did you? Because I'm sure, I think in the U.S., student that is a big thing, right? So, how did you prepare yourself to not take on as much debt or take on manageable debt? And what did you choose as a major and why?
Yeah. So, because of what I did in high school, because of what I wrote about in my essays, I was lucky enough to receive a Martin Luther King Jr. scholarship to NYU, which was half tuition, which made it the cheapest possible option, even cheaper than some of the Cal State and UC, state-funded universities in California. And yeah, that was essentially the key decision for attending NYU. Of course, there was a bunch of other great things, travel focus that, I can get into that also guided the decision. But beyond that, I knew I was applying to business administration degrees or economics degrees for all my applications, and NYU had a pretty top-ranked business program. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. My idea at the time was like become a sports agent. But yeah, I walked into NYU Stern School of Business without a concentration, and then eventually majored in finance and management, which is, I guess, like the management consulting prep major, mixed with the investment banking prep major. And then I minored in film producing in the art school, which was more of a passion,
A passion type of endeavor.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with your film production, do you find that skill useful in real world scenarios? Do you think that someone that takes that can actually make practice use of it in real life?
Yeah, so it was film producing, which is more or less um, a very fun way to study project management. And so a lot of the project management skills that I still use today, I got from the lens,
A film
no pun
production.
intended, of film production. So
Interesting.
fundraising, putting a project together, scheduling it, budging it, gathering the people who are going to contribute to it, um, meeting deadlines, and then eventually selling whatever it is you've put together. Those are skills I still use today, definitely, just not with uh, you know filmed content as much.
Mm. So, given that you managed to get into college thanks to this essay that you wrote that gave you 50% off
Mm-hmm.
your student tuition, I guess the takeaway from that is just for everyone before they go to college, you really look into programs that they can qualify for to make college cheaper in that regards. Um, but as your time progressed throughout college, what was the hardest thing about you sustaining your I don't know, what's the hardest thing about completing your time in college? And how did you land a job after college?
Yeah.
Actually, I take that back. What's the hardest thing about your major? And did you get a chance to travel again while you were in college?
Yeah. The hardest thing about my major was at least the classes at NYU were some of them were very intensive, lots of hours of studying, really hard exams, and it was graded on a curve. So
Huh?
it didn't matter if you got a 95. If everyone else got a 95,
You got a normal
you
score.
got a B. You know.
Yes.
So you were in competition with with your fellow students. So I remember one specific experience. I was studying for an economics exam, and I asked this girl to help me out, or like explain a certain concept to me, and she actually explained it incorrectly to me.
Ah,
I think on purpose.
no
And
way.
it's just an example of like how cutthroat it was. And they did that. They had their reasons for doing that, but I'd say that's the hardest part. That was the hardest part.
Wow.
And then on the travel front, as part of that scholarship, it came with an obligation to do more community service, but it also came with an obligation to basically study social justice as an extra 4 credit class for the first 2 years of college. But it also included a funded trip for those first 2 years. So
Yes,
over
sir.
winter break, freshman year of college, we went to Ghana. And
Nice.
then sophomore year, we went to Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And these were kind of like educational service and fun trips. Um, and then additionally, NYU is a really great school for studying abroad. They have campuses in all these other
Countries?
satellite cities. And the business school has an exchange program with universities around the globe too. So I did one semester at NYU Prague,
Wow.
their small satellite campus in the Czech Republic. And then I did one semester at Università Bocconi in Milan, Italy as an exchange student.
Interesting. How do you feel all these travel abroad programs propulsed you or helped you right after college? Do you feel like it helped you? Like, how did it? Where do you think you would have been if you hadn't, gone to NYU for that specific reason to travel and you hadn't done all those programs?
By the time I was 20 years old, I was looking at kids from high school who, were just as smart as me, had just as good grades as me, but hadn't done that. They went the route of, either big state schools with football and frat culture, or just schools that generally didn't provide those same opportunities. And I felt that it had kind of propelled me into maturity a little bit faster. Not only maturity, but just an appreciation for other cultures, other languages, other ways of living.
Yep, for sure.
And it kind of like widened my lens, like I think in the US specifically, you kind of grow up thinking that your country is kind of the center of the universe. So, when I was 20 years old, I was coming back to the U.S. experiencing reverse culture shock, where I was questioning everything about the United States and the life that is more or less, semi-prescribed to Americans after college.
Very prescribed.
And then I'd made a bunch of friends who just didn't share my upbringing, and learned a lot from them.
Interesting. Where'd you meet these friends?
Yeah,
Abroad?
either abroad, out and about, in classrooms. Yeah.
Sharing
More-
perspective. I
yeah.
like how you said it, broaden your lens, because that's the definition of perspective. You get to see things from better lenses, I guess. Okay, so I guess after college, how do you? I don't know. When you come back from all these trips, you're completing college, your last semester in college. Do you already have a job? What are you thinking? Are you sweaty? Are you?
I was sweating. Everyone in my major had lined up jobs from way before, like even some of them
Sophomore
before
year.
senior year started. And I knew I didn't want to become a banker, which that's what NYU was built for. I knew I didn't want to become a management consultant, which is also what that school was built for. I knew I wanted to get into the entertainment industry and do something a little bit different than my peers, but I didn't have a job, and we were about 2 weeks away from graduation, and I was interviewing at places, and then I remember a week before graduation week, I got a call from a company I'd interviewed for, Vivo, that I had gotten the job. And so, saved by the bell at the last minute. My plans before that was move back to LA, move in with the parents, try to figure it out there. But that allowed me to stay in New York and work in an industry I was really excited about. Vivo was owned by Google, Universal Music Group, and the Abu Dhabi Media Group at the time, and had the rights for all the big labels' video content. And yeah, Vivo is essentially an advertising sales arm for official music videos.
I think I know what Vivo is too. I used to listen to music on Vivo.
Yeah, if you've been on YouTube and watched an official music video by a big artist, it probably has a Vivo tag on it. And those ads are sold specifically by Vivo. Google gets a cut, but Vivo gets the majority of the premium.
Interesting. So you work for this Vivo company, and it seems like the perfect fit for you. Is it remote? How long do you stay here? What's the cons of working at this place?
I'm living in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and commuting 40 minutes on a train to Midtown Manhattan, to a skyscraper that I had to show up at 8 a.m. every day and leave at 6 every day. Not really getting paid much. I think the entertainment industry kind of underpays because they have this like glamour factor and so many applicants, so they can kind of undercut you. And yeah, showed up to work every day, sweaty on a train in the summer or freezing in the winter.
Wow. For a couple of years?
For a couple of years, and I felt that I wasn't really learning fast. I was not really saving money. I was spending it all. Like, finally had the freedom, finally not in school, in New York City, hanging out with friends,
crazy, yeah.
going a little crazy,
Nice.
getting a bunch of free tickets to concerts on behalf of Vivo, and just kind of like, going to 2-3 concerts a week.
Nice.
Spending every dime I earned.
But giving it back to Vivo?
Yeah, or barely affording the rent in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, but having a blast. So that lasted 2 years.
Interesting. So what do you do now? And what do you do now? Is it what you started after Vivo?
No.
Okay, so take us down that path. What's after Vivo?
I'll try to make it succinct. I quit Vivo after 2 years, moved back to Los Angeles, took a film production, not producing, production course at UCLA. So got my hands on professional cameras, got experience on set, putting together short films, feature films, music videos with people in the industry in Los Angeles. It involved a lot of grunt work, a lot of carrying shit that was too heavy, a lot of 12-hour days where you'd get paid not very much.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, what made you wanna do? Were you looking for something to do to occupy your time? Were you just passionate about this? I guess you're very passionate about the music.
Yeah.
How much did you pay for this course to invest? Were you investing in yourself so you can be better at this?
I quit Vivo with the mindset I don't want to work at a computer, at a desk. I fancied myself creative and skilled.
Absolutely.
With taste in artists, in filmmakers, and writers, and I wanted to act on that.
That's a good one, bro.
So it was more of a creative passion endeavor. I kind of put the idea of finances to the side throughout that period, and had a lot of fun doing it. Created some cool stuff that's still getting viewed today, but went even more broke, and it was tough. You'd get snail mail checks weeks or months after you actually performed the labor.
The labor.
And it was labor. And you'd meet some terrible personalities, and you would basically have to get lucky to kind of like move up in that world. It wasn't, my NYU credential didn't do much. It was all about credits and who you know. And
so were you trying to break into a new industry then?
Basically, I mean, I had entertainment experience, but I didn't have filmmaking experience professionally. So
you took the course.
So I took the course, and UCLA was a really good course. 3 months, I think you pay a couple $1,000, and at the end you have a mini portfolio of films, and you know how it works, and you have met at that point people that are connected. So it was good for that. But you're a freelance worker. You're hustling for your next job, and then the moment you do it, you need another job. So you're always interviewing. You're always trying to meet people.
Yes. So that was the struggle of that industry. How long were you in that industry for?
I did that for about 8 months before I was completely drained from it, and then I made a play back into a desk job for the analytics arm of Legendary Entertainment movie studio. They were kind of pioneers in applying analytics to film marketing and film development. And so I kind of like
use that.
Yeah, in that environment, my NYU finance degree was respected, and then I had what they didn't have, which was filmmaking experience as well, and like a really good idea of how it all worked. So they were making big budget movies. Like, that company's really got big from making like Batman Begins, Dark Knight at first. Since then, it's been like Kong, Godzilla. They did Dune. I worked on a number of films with them, a number of TV series with them, in a analytics capacity, so lots of Excel and PowerPoint.
Sounds like a great job, though.
It was a great job until AT&T bought Time Warner Media, Time Warner including Warner Media.
Wow.
Which Warner Media in that moment bought the analytics arm of Legendary Entertainment, which I was working for, and let me and my boss go. So after 7 months, I didn't have a job. Made a play into the Legendary Digital Media Group, which was not bought by Warner Media. And so on my resume, it kind of looks like a continuous line. It looks like I got promoted at Legendary Entertainment, but I actually got fired and rehired into a different subsidiary.
But that's good you got rehired, though, instead of just leaving the company. But if you stayed, that means you loved it there.
I loved it in the original job, where I was working with data scientists and machine learning engineers and learning a lot every day. I did not like it in the digital media arm, which was basically 4 or 5 business folks sitting in this little cubicle at this production studio and struggling to basically fighting for YouTube views with Facebook advertising, and it just wasn't a intellectually stimulating environment.
Right.
And I would get off at like 3:30, 4 p.m. and just be, after a boring day at work, just be bored and understimulated. So I quit and joined the Flatiron School Data Science Bootcamp in Seattle.
Is that because you realized that from your previous job you enjoyed you enjoyed working with data scientists and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And you wanted to try something new, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, at the movie studio, I was basically benefiting from the work of data scientists and machine learning engineers, and then putting it into PowerPoints for them. But I was pretty amazed at like what they were doing. They were predicting the box office numbers months before it would actually get released. They were using it to optimize like when trailers and teasers were released, to put basically price tags on actors in terms of like how much box office it would drive, and just all things marketing decision making for movies.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Data scientists were kind of feeding those decisions, and I was
enjoying it,
bearing witness to it.
So for anybody watching this that wants to bear witness to what a data scientist is or does, given that you are a data scientist now, how would you describe the role of a data scientist to a 5-year-old?
Yeah, it's a three-factor Venn diagram, if you can imagine that. It's business. You have to know what drives revenue and what lowers expenses. It's statistics. So, how to run a statistically significant experiment to learn something, probability. And then it's light computer programming, so SQL, query writing, and Python. Basically using Python as a calculator calculator on steroids.
Yes.
Bigger data sets, doing it faster, and making predictions with those tools.
Okay. So now in your current role, would you say that you do all of those things? And you said you went to a boot camp, right?
Yeah.
How long was the boot camp? How much did you pay? How hard was the boot camp? And would you advise anyone that wants to become a data scientist to take the boot camp to be like?
So first question being, do I use that stuff at work today? Yes, I use all three at work today. The third of which, the advanced modeling stuff, is harder to find the right application for in a rushed environment. Sometimes I'm just doing reporting, basic bar charts, basic line charts, stuff like this, and it's very valuable. It's rarer to get a chance to like really apply machine learning in
real time,
without being able to buy yourself more time and space to develop the model, put it in production, that sort of thing. Sometimes those opportunities arise though. And then the boot camp. So they were Flatiron School, traditionally a software development boot camp, was opening their first data science boot camp in Seattle. And because it was the first of its kind, basically untested, unproven, they gave those students half off. So
were you one of those students?
Yes.
So why are you always making it to the half off?
I was getting that 50% cut, man. So I think normally people pay like $18,000, and I paid $9,000, and I put it on a zero fee, zero interest credit card for where you don't have to make your first payment until 18 months after you spent, for the first 18 months since opening the credit card.
How long was the boot camp?
5 months.
Okay, so
full time.
So you gave yourself 13 months to get a job and start paying. Okay.
18 months. Yeah. I think it was I forget the name of the exact card. It was a Wells Fargo, basically like no interest for 18 months credit card, no points, no rewards, anything like that. But yeah, it gave me 18 months from the moment I paid Flatiron School to start paying that $9,000 back. And then, yeah, 5 months later, I was out of the boot camp looking for a job. Would I recommend it? I think, that was where I really wrote my first lines of code, is where I uploaded my first code and projects and analyses to GitHub. It's where I did coded up my first machine learning models, my first neural network. But I'd say it's not a great way to get a job, which is kind of how they advertise. They say, do this and you'll be able to get a data science job, you'll be able to get a software development job. I don't think that promise is necessarily always fulfilled. Of the 30 students in my class, I think maybe 5 of us got data scientist jobs within a year. And I actually didn't get a data science job. I got a finance data analyst job at my current company, got friendly with the data science group and made a play, made an internal transfer play.
You're always making a play.
Yeah. Convinced them to let me internal transfer and become a data scientist.
Nice.
But I really didn't know how, even all those projects I did at the boot camp, I really didn't know what I was doing until I did it at work. Their career coach was really good, their resume reviewer and all that, but ultimately it was a lot of money to pay for something that didn't actually end up getting me a job.
In the door, yeah. Okay, so you would not recommend that? You would recommend somebody just learn on their own? Or
I would recommend it if you have prior analytics experience. It'll boost you up, I think, to give yourself a chance to become a data scientist. But if you're a teacher or a marketer or a just anything else,
worker, yeah,
and you think that's the only data science experience that's going to get you a job, I'd say you have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so at this current job, how long have you been at this company?
4 years.
Okay.
As of last week.
So how long in until you started doing this digital nomad lifestyle?
I left New York for Playa del Carmen in February of 2022. So just under 2 years.
Nice. I'm guessing that there's no real challenge work-wise of working. There's no real challenge posed by traveling if you're working. I think you just get accustomed to moving around and finding the right places to be. But what about your job right now? Do you enjoy the most? Is it the team you're working on? Is it the work that you get to do with data science? What is it that I don't know, do you see yourself at this job for the next decade? Do you enjoy it this much, or will you make another play?
I want to own my own business and do something entrepreneurial eventually. So, no, not another decade. I do enjoy that. At least historically, the company has always tried to hire the top 10, let's say, percentile of talent in, San Francisco and New York coming out of top schools. So one of the best things is just the caliber of folks I'm working with, and the knowledge I'm able to soak up from them. I joined as, I think, around number 300. We're now at 1,200. So I've been able to see it go from more or less a scrappy startup to quite a large company. That's been great. And with that comes, as I was telling you before, the knowledge about how to actually navigate it, navigating the internal politics, how and where to expend energy, time, social capital, who who to go to for certain things, who, you know, how to just be effective with the personalities at play.
Okay.
Part of being surrounded by smart people is the opportunity to become a better data scientist, and that's essentially probably the core thing that I like the most. And compared to, let's say, working in film production, you know, my pay is higher than that.
Of course.
So that's nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now
that solves a lot of problems.
especially when you're traveling. Yeah. Now that we've discussed basically why and how you became a data scientist at this fintech company, let's discuss your ambitions, this entrepreneurial ambitions you have. What drives this entrepreneurial spirit? Why do you long to start your own venture rather than being comfortable in your 9 to 5?
Yeah. A lot of different reasons. I think there's a lot of skills I'm not using, a lot of business skills I'm not using as a data scientist that I have. There's a lot that turns me off about climbing a corporate ladder, engaging in corporate politics, and I've seen a lot of, or I've gotten a lot of inspiration over the years of people that own their own business. And if you look at the numbers, let's say we're looking at like a Forbes list of like top 100 richest people, or say you are just looking around your life and you're taking stock of like who some of the most successful people you know. Chances are they either started a business or owned a cash flowing business for a long time. So, you know, I don't need to start the next OpenAI or anything, but I think running a cash cow business with 10 or less employees that more or less operates by itself, it could be in the most boring industry of all time. That appeals to me. The idea of passive income and time freedom appeals to me. So that's what's drawing me to entrepreneurship. Data science takes 50 plus hours a week right now. I don't want to be working 50 plus hours a week in 10 years.
Interesting take. But why take that risk of gaining all the freedom in the world when you can just be a comfortable data scientist making so much money, getting so many good benefits? Why relinquish all that benefits for a risk of uncertainty?
So I'm young, and I've been able to save money over the last 4 years, so I have, I think, a higher risk tolerance that I can act upon than a lot of people. I have the cushion to be able to take a risk. The other thing is, I'm a data scientist, right? If you look at the risk reward of starting a boring cash cow small business versus, you know, even just trying to survive at a Silicon Valley tech company over the next 10 years, the return for the risk, I think, is just higher. So at the end of the day, no matter the emotions attached to the decision, it just seems like I can make more money that way with less
effort.
So that's it. I think the idea speaks for itself. Of course, the decision of what business to run or start or buy is the biggest one, and then what you do with that, you know, you have to be able to add value, grow it to really make it work. But those opportunities exist. They're the largest cohort of retirees, or the largest cohort of boomers are either retiring, and retirees are, you know, looking for ways to pass down their 30-year self-sustaining businesses to either their kids or just a new generation. These are good businesses being sold, so I like the idea of acquisition entrepreneurship with all these like cash flowing boomer businesses. And in that world, you kind of skip all the risk of like the really early days of starting something.
True.
If you're looking at a 20-year self-sustaining business, it more or
not
less
really.
runs itself.
Facts.
And a lot of them haven't even done the basic technological adaptation steps. Getting an Instagram, using Facebook marketing, opening an e-commerce store for something they sell in brick and mortar, using Square as a POS system instead of their antiquated whatever. There's just so many like small things that are like really obvious. You don't need to be an innovator or disruptor to
figure it out.
own a good business. And if that opportunity comes and it replaces or outpaces my current data science salary, there's no reason not to.
Why not? Yeah, absolutely. I personally think entrepreneurship is the best way to actually being free, because you're really independent and nobody's really telling you what to do, especially if you have your own cash cow. So worth the rewards for those reasons, to just be solely independent from nobody but yourself.
Yeah, and on that, businesses are meant to make profit, right? Silicon Valley businesses are meant to grow 10x every year to the moon. But in reality, like, there are so many business ideas that you don't need to grow 10x every year for it to be something that puts cash in your checking account.
Yes.
Maybe a business is not supposed to grow that fast and that high and disrupt the whole world. Some businesses are just meant to
be small,
serve a need consistently.
True, very true, very true.
And
Maybe.
not drain your energy every day.
The thing is, like, most businesses that are meant to serve a need have already been done. So I guess, like you were saying, buying a business that's already just not reinventing the wheel and then just doing something that's
Yeah, I think my generation, kids I graduated with, have lofty dreams about changing the world, of business, inventing something that, hits all corners of the world and everyone and changes lives, and that's really great. I don't personally think I have the idea or capacity to find, start, and build that thing.
But you do.
I would rather optimize for financial freedom and time freedom. And yeah, as you said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel to find that.
Facts, big facts.
You don't need to change the world to find that.
Big facts.
But that's not a sexy way to view your career in America. But I think it's my preference.
It's my preference too. I mean, with the life of a digital nomad, you also get exposed to like different places you can be for tax benefits. And I think taxes is a big one, especially as a nomad. If you do it well, you can save so much money from living somewhere else and from not staying in the U.S. as well. So something to look out for. Now that we've discussed why and how you became a data scientist and where your aspirations are probably going to take you, do you have any words? Do you have any like life philosophy you live by?
Life philosophy I live by.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a deep question. The first one that comes to mind is just enjoy.
Enjoy the passage of time.
Enjoy, not in a hedonistic way, but if I'm waking up joyful, I'm doing something right. Family, I have hundreds of really good friends, but nothing replaces blood in my mind. And no matter how frustrated they'll make me over these next 2 holiday weeks, like I love them, and that's who's going to be there for me when times get rough. So
That's tough.
family is huge. Yeah, I really believe in, I guess, 2 other things that are secondary to enjoying life and family, which is 1, giving back, helping others, lifting others up, and 2, which I guess kind of crosses into that, is empowering artists that I love, artists that I think have something original to say, original voices in general, whether it's art or not. yeah, lifting up people with less and lifting up people with original voices.
Wow, man, I really appreciate that. I think I benefit from that because you've obviously helped me by being on this podcast. Yeah, I just really appreciate you for being part of this, and I hope for those watching, you've been able to gather what you need to get some perspective on what Alex did to become a data scientist. So without further ado, thanks once again, and
Yeah,
next time,
thanks
guys.
for having me.
Yeah, you have perspective, bro. Oh. I've always known you had perspective, though.
This thing's still on?
Wait, yours is still on?
I think so.